morning, everyone, and welcome to the Town of Vesuvius Committee of the Whole meeting, September the 14th, 2021 at 9 a.m. in council chambers. Besides the three of us on council that are at the table here, Director Councillor Harvey and Councillor Rhodes are also attending, but on Zoom. And we have some people in the gallery this morning from the Vesuvius Desert Center. So the first up is the approval of the agenda and any late items. No late items? Good. Could I have, thank you very much. Councillor King moves the approval. Councillor Bennett seconding. All in favor? Thank you. Adoption of some minutes. Committee of the Whole minutes from August the 24th, 2021. Somebody who would like to, I'm going to let Councillor Rhodes do that. Who was the chair of that one? Councillor Bennett, you're seconding that. All in favor that the Committee of the Whole minutes be adopted. Thank you. Business arising from the minutes, none. So today we have a presentation from Jamie Bright, Manager Director of the Vesuvius Desert Center, and she is going to speak to us. Mrs. Hilson, can we set up the?
Oh, no, she can come up.
Oh, she come right up to that one. Yeah. Thank you very much. And we have some other members of the Desert Center Board of Directors.
Yes, we do.
Okay. Thank you very much and welcome. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Rotoff and councillors. Thank you for having us here today to present to you, well, quite a dilemma that we're facing with our new boardwalk construction. Just to give you a little bit of background information, earlier this year, Vesuvius Desert Society was awarded a provincial grant, a government grant, Community Economic Recovery Infrastructure Program grant, to replace the Vesuvius Desert Center's 25-year-old 1.5 kilometer wooden boardwalk. That was truly at the end of its life. We have implemented an annual maintenance program of the boardwalk each year since its construction. But after 25 years, it was getting more and more difficult and more expensive to simply maintain it. So truly, this grant couldn't have come at a better time for our organization and the Vesuvius Desert Center. The aim of the Community Economic Recovery Infrastructure Grant is to bolster the recovery of BC's tourism industry, which, as you know, as we all know, has suffered miserably because of COVID, and now this year with the significant wildfire season that we've had, it's just been devastating. And so the grant was to bolster tourism and create infrastructure that would provide a better and a more enriching visitor experience and enhance our reputation as a world-class visitor destination. The grant was also intended to stimulate our local economy and create local jobs, targeting specifically underrepresented groups such as New Canadians, Indigenous people, women, and youth. As I said, it's a tourist attraction that welcomes on average 10,000 visitors a year in a normal year. We were really thrilled to get this grant. So the plan is to start construction in October after we close this season. And so we were in the process of finalizing that planning and been in touch with Jared, Director of Operational Services, to inquire about disposing of the pressure treated lumber that the old boardwalk is constructed of. And in talking to Jared, we discovered that based on the estimated weight of the lumber, the cost of disposal could be up to $257,000. So as you can imagine, we were pretty devastated by this news and just mortified that we had overlooked this significant expense in our budget. This oversight puts our new boardwalk construction in real jeopardy. So in further talking to Jared and also our project manager, Larry Stone, who's here today, we were talking about what we can do to reduce that cost, how can we handle this situation. One of the things that came up in the discussion was that it is a little bit difficult to estimate the weight of the lumber because the pressure treated lumber after 25 years will have dried out significantly. So that could bring our costs down. The lumber could come in weighing less. And further point that I'd like to make is as a conservation organization, Osoyoos Desert Society wants to see as little of the waste material as possible go into the landfill. And so we intend to upcycle as much of the material as possible. Around our site, we will retain some of the lumber to construct some new decks and fencing that we require. And we'll also send a notice to our supporters, inviting them to take the salvageable materials away for free for use in their own personal projects. Everyone taking the material away will receive a note from the Osoyoos Desert Society informing them that material is pressure treated lumber and the precautions that they would need to take with that material. And then finally, the final point that I'd like to make is that Osoyoos Desert Society, we will make every effort to reuse the material, and we feel that that could be quite a substantial amount. But there will definitely be some material that in the end is not salvageable and is just at the end of its life. So there will be some. It's difficult to estimate at this time how much that would be. But that is certainly our intention, is to recycle as much of it as possible and greatly reduce the amount that will go into the landfill. So we would like to respectfully request that council approve our request to waive all of the boardwalk disposal fees as it really as I mentioned, puts our boardwalk project in some serious jeopardy.
Thank you very much, and we certainly appreciate in the town of Osoyoos everything that the Osoyoos Desert Center has done for the last 25 plus years. It is a jewel, of course, in our town. Not quite in the town, so area A, but close enough. And I do know that people talk about this as a place that they love to come and visit when they're in town. So absolutely, thank you for, first of all, for everything that that all of you do, because I know it takes all of you working together to come up with how this wonderful spot works. And I know you have many volunteers who help you. I am very, I've been thinking about this since I heard about it, and I'm very pleased that you're looking at other options, such as, using some of the lumber in other areas around the area, because that would certainly make sense. And offering it to people who might need it for their yard. And I know one of your members, Birgit, already told me about this, Birgit Arnstein, and she said, yes, she was going out there to get it. So obviously you have to be very careful about the lumber and how it's used. And I agree with you putting out, giving people a notice to say, this is what it is, and we need to be aware of these things, for sure. I'm going to let council ask questions, and then we will certainly check with Mr. Brownstein and Mr. Chabot on the legalities of doing this, because I don't think we can just automatically say no, we waive the fees. That's not allowed, but we can certainly, we're happy to look at ways that we might be able to help. So, Councillor King.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I believe the Osoyoos Desert Center is definitely an asset to our town. And I don't know if you could answer, and maybe Mr. Stone, could you tell us roughly about how much of the walk you could reuse, kind of percentage wise?
Probably around the site, we could, well, the one in a 1.5 kilometers, we could probably use, I'm guessing 10 to 20% of it. So there's almost 5,000 feet, so we could probably reuse, close to 1,000 feet. I'm guessing with the people in town, with all these acres and orchards, they could use it for mats for their, for their tractors. There could be people that could use it for a base for their sheds. So I'm hoping we could get rid of at least 50% of it, Jim.
Thank you.
Can I just check, I thought your question was, could they reuse any of the wood
Yeah.
there in rebuilding? No, in rebuilding the new walkway.
No, it's
No,
not.
it's not, okay.
Yeah. And then, I've gone through that, Mayor, when we started this project, Jack and I came on board. I've walked that boardwalk several times, and most of the substructure is rotten. And because we're putting with the composite board, we have to, the substructure has to be rebuilt in a different configuration.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else that has a question? Any other of the counselors? Can I ask Mr. Chabot, is there any way that the town could take this information and look at helping the Desert Center in any way to lessen the cost? Can I give you any suggestions?
Your worship, the waste management bylaw doesn't provide any method whereby a reduction or waiver of the established fees set. The only way you could amend those fees is for council to consider an amendment to the bylaw. I think staff have looked at the appropriate way to classify the product that would come in. There's a variety of classifications of different types of waste with different disposal rates. And took probably the middle ground for this product, which is an interesting one. So no, I'm happy to hear that they think that there's opportunity for people to reuse, that they can reduce the volume. Not only, I guess it's not too far a stretch to take it from the Desert Center to the landfill site, so your trucking cost won't be too great, but there's also that to consider. The tipping fees are when you roll over the scale at the landfill. Getting it there is another thing as well. There might be opportunity to ship the waste on site, pile it into some type of a container and haul it there. Being careful trying to keep it dry, because if it's wet, it'll weigh a lot more, etc. Right? Unfortunately, it's so much unknown, right? Like, what's the density of this old wood as compared to whatever measure was found on the internet to estimate what kind of waste tonnage we were talking about here. So like you say, it's 25 years old, it'd be a fraction of what Greenwood would be. Yeah, it's too bad this weren't contemplated in the grant application.
Yes. So this would obviously take, if you had to pay $250,000 for disposal, that would be what, a third of the total grant?
The total grant was 837,000, and while we put the ITT, the invitation to tender out to contractors, and while we haven't made a decision on that as of yet, the bids that we got in, the bids that we got in are nearing that budget, 837. So we would, or exceeding it. So it would just be impossible at $247,000 the disposal fee.
I certainly see that. I know that Mr. Stone has a great deal of experience dealing with the museum. And I do know that he was very good at getting volunteers and getting people to donate their trucks and some of their skills for no cost. And I'm just wondering if you have tried that on this level, Mr. Stone?
Not yet, we haven't. No, I haven't yet, Sue. Now, to your comment, the contractors, in the bid, we asked them to allow for transportation to the landfill, so that cost is already covered. It's just a dump fee. And I've gone through and I've done my own takeoff of the weight. And if you look at the 2x6 pressure treated new, it's about 7 pounds per foot. But this is down to probably about 3 pounds a foot because it's dry, it's rotten. There's probably 3/4 of the boards are probably worn down, so they lost probably 20% of the thickness already. So I think that the weight will be a lot less than what you did, Sheriff, because I did use a reduced weight. And on the landfill, there is a category for I think it's called I suppose I've got to bring my sheet, but there's the standard fee for construction debris is what we had at the museum in a dumpster, which is we had plywood and drywall and tin and ducting and all kinds of stuff. That's at the 500, I think 40 or $525.
That's not
But
bad.
there's a second one that's at 210, I think it is. And that specifically says wood that's been preserved wood.
The controlled waste, the
Yeah.
bylaws at 210. But controlled waste is a defined term in the bylaw, and it talks about hazardous waste, liquid waste, refuse, which is approved for disposal. Includes but is not limited to water containing soil, sand, gravel, other non-hazardous pumpings from parking lot drains, pumps from septic tanks, from laundry lint traps, pumps from sumps, which collect runoff from vehicle washing, automobile contain. So there's some uncertainty about
Yeah.
what category it falls into.
If-
One of the things that I think council could consider, your worship, would be a rate class for the disposal of waste generated by not-for-profit societies with a presence in the local community. It might make some sense to lessen the burden on those groups that are typically dependent upon grants and donations to continue to operate, contribute to quality of life, tourism and things. That makes some sense to straighten that out. That doesn't seem to fit the controlled waste definition.
Well, if you go on the webpage for the landfill, then the control waste, it specifically says it says carcasses and preserved wood. If you
There's
go-
an inconsistency between the
Yeah.
brochure on the website and what the
And what-
bylaw says.
yeah.
That's the problem.
Go ahead, Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Mayor Roberta. Sales, what are we talking there approximately? Is it like, we're talking all tons and weights and stuff, are we talking $100,000, $50,000, 200, what kind of general number?
That's the problem, is we don't know. At the upside, it's 257,000, but it could well be half of that based on density of the wood and what its weight is. I mean, a person could go pull up some representative samples of boards and weigh them and then do a calculation that way. But that hasn't been done. So
What can we do today? Probably all change the bylaw and make it real cheap.
yeah,
We could, but that takes some time too. I don't know whether we can.
Well, I guess.
take 2 meetings after this one. Yeah. Well, we
You
have to
did
figure out.
suggest a minute ago that if it was a nonprofit that was doing that, is that something you're suggesting we add, or is that already in? the
It's
bylaw?
not in the
No,
bylaw.
it's
It's
not.
something that council could consider. It's not value in that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I guess if we have to look at this new bylaw change, would a month affect you? Because it would take a month to pass this through.
We could make that work, absolutely. That would fit in with our schedule.
Something one I think Councilor King is, the society's making it very clear that they have no extra money.
Yeah, so
So if they're at $800,000 and that's all the money they have, no matter what we reduce our rates to, it's still gonna negatively. So that's something that council needs to keep in mind when going through the process. Dropping the disposal fee down to 0 is probably not realistic because it costs money for us to dispose of this air. So it's true.
Part of the reason for disposal fees is post-closure costs And it's for waste
Operating.
reduction, so people aren't just throwing things out.
Yeah.
It's easy.
So, is the new boardwalk, in your plans, is it the same length as the boardwalk you have there, but a slightly different path? Is that correct? No, I thought that's what
No,
Larry
no, no,
said.
no,
It's the same length, sorry, Larry, it's the same length, and it follows pretty much the same path where we wanted to protect some of the habitat.
Yes,
We have shifted it over a foot in certain circumstances. But it basically follows the same path and is the same length.
okay. This could take some discussion and some options from our staff to even have a look at this. I'm wondering if you might need to look at your plans and was in your plans, was it to certainly use the entire 837,000 on the building of the walkway? Is that what it will cost to build it? Or is there monies involved in that for any disposal or, I mean, I'm just not sure what's involved, but is that the whole cost was there? So it sounds like maybe you need to look at your plans a little differently. Either not do the entire length, if this does not work in your favor, and there are definite concerns about that, because we can't just say right now, not at all, that we can forgive this or not charge you anything. That would not be, what's not in the bylaw would not be fair to everything else. There's too many things to consider to even do that. However, I certainly like the idea of looking at all these other options and perhaps, reducing the length of the walkway. And I don't know whether that has been considered or not. I get it. Once you've got it ready, you want to go with it for sure. Is there anyone else that wanted to have anything to say about this? No, Councillor Rose, Councillor Harvey, I'm just checking to make sure that your hands are up. Could we ask Mr. Chabot and Mr. Brownstein to have a look at this and come back with perhaps some options, such as what you suggested, in order for us to help alleviate this cost a little bit? Is that, or I just wanted to know if there's anything we can do.
I guess why I'm a little bit hesitant is I don't understand what underpins the establishment of rates in the bylaw. What type of analysis backs that up? Is there a background report that says it should be this much based on X, Y, and Z that I don't yet understand? Was trying to think through opportunities to provide some grant funding support for disposal costs. Because we go down the road of making it near free for not-for-profits, and maybe that has unintended consequences as well.
So it seems to me when the museum was disposing, it was the disposal fees were a grant from the town of Vesuvius.
Yeah, the costs were
Minimal.
25th, the
Yeah.
25th of this amount.
Yeah, because with museum, we also was virtually all of the wood that came out of there, all the lumber, it was just, we put it on the backyard and it was gone within
Disappeared.
Gone.
a day or two.
Yeah.
But a lot of that was taken for people to burn in the wood stoves, which just can't be done.
No,
Not doing that. with this.
no, you can't be doing that, for sure. Go ahead, Mr. Brownstein.
I just want to mention, your worship, I am requesting money in next year's capital program to look at this bylaw and redevelop it to where it should be. So that is something that will be coming to council. And second, if I could ask the society to kind of give us a little bit more detail on your projected volumes and your projected tonnage for this.
I can do that, Jared. Yeah.
So then we can, at least come back to council and say, here's more reality of what kind of funding they're looking at regarding this.
And certainly even if we could get that information and lower the amount certainly from 250,000, that would, anything that we can do to lower that would be helpful. I think you're doing some of that already, but would you be able to provide that? Larry,
I said good,
Yeah.
Yeah,
And just sorry.
sure, go ahead. We'll let you
One other
finish. and
question,
then-
Mrs. Adi, is there a possibility of being able to stockpile your lumber on site until 2022?
Yes, that was another option that we considered as well.
Okay,
So
so
the
there's,
bylaws look at comprehensively.
Yeah.
And you know, maybe another grant opportunity comes on. in the meantime.
RMI? No?
Well,
Nothing
there
in
would
that?
be a redirect of funds from another project area and require provincial approval, because we don't have a particular waterfront enhancement project in mind yet. There's a sizable allocation there. It may qualify, the province may
Okay.
say no, it's not really in your plan.
Okay, well, there's another option we
was
could
a
look
thought
at
too,
for
yeah.
sure. Councillor King,
Is there a timeline on this grant that you have to spend the money?
There is, we, in the grant application, we indicated that we would have the project complete by the end of next year, December of 2022.
And not to really know your business, but I know you put it out to tender and I don't know, maybe one come in at 750 or 700. That, so there is some latitude, possibly if you chose the lowest bid.
There's not, so we did get bids in and they are pretty much.
I heard how much money you got to talk about.
that happens true. Well, you know, we thank you because I think there's been some slight possibilities here today. Let's have a look at this, see what we can come up with, and definitely we'd like to support you, but we have to do it legally. That's all. So we have to do it carefully, and if you can, Larry, get back to us, Jared and Alan, with any information that you might have. And in the meantime, I like all the other ideas that you've already come up with, so I would really work on those as much as possible in order to try and help everybody get this amount lowered, for sure.
Well, thank you very much, your worship, and Counselor, and Jared and Alan, and Dan, thank you all for your support, we really appreciate it.
Thank you for all of you coming out and giving us this information, because we hear you for sure. We anything that we can do, we would like to help. Yeah, for
Thank
sure.
you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, I think we don't have anything else on the agenda, so I need a motion. Yeah, go ahead.
We back to conversation, we're staff gonna come back with some type of report at next council meeting?
We're gonna get further information from
Yeah.
Mr. Stone about the anticipated volumes. tonnage.
So then you'll come back with some type of comment next council meeting?
I don't know if they'll be ready in time for that. They were gonna tell us whether or not they could stockpile as well.
Well, I think they
Jared-
said they could, they said they could.
Yeah, Jared noted he was gonna try to budget for a review of this bylaw.
Yeah.
For next year.
Yeah.
So I think there's some options. I think we
There are, and I think they've got a few that they thought of themselves, and so that's
I'm pleased to hear that they're going with composite decking material as well. Better for the environment, to last longer.
okay.
Well, no, that's what I mean. They might try to get rid of 20-30% of the wood.
Yeah,
Even, especially some of the farmers, yeah.
and if people know that they can come out there and get some and use it in their landscaping or yards or something, well, then that's helpful too. But that just chips away a little bit of the time, doesn't it?
That's an idea.
Yeah,
I think so.
I
So they
think
can
so,
sit there,
too.
they got lots of room in the yard, you can sit there for
They
a
do.
couple, 3 years, and isn't gonna hold up the project.
yeah, I think there's some ways to do it. Okay, we'll leave it up to you once Larry gets back to you on that amount. Okay, thank you very much. And so I need a motion, please, to terminate the meeting. Thank you, Councillor Kane, Councillor Bennett, all in favor. Good, thank you. See you guys at 2 o'clock.